Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to install Kali Linux in our VirtualBox. So Kali Linux is a version, a distribution of Linux operating system. We have a lot of versions, a lot of distributions regarding Linux. However, we're going to proceed with Kali Linux. Because Kali Linux includes most of the tools that we're going to use for ethical hacking or penetration testing. It's commonly used in ethical hacking, so this will be a very good opportunity for us to learn Linux operating system and also learn about the tools that hackers use in daily life. So one of the reasons that we're going to use this is also it's completely free. We can download it and we can install it on our VirtualBox and immediately start using it. Since this is a virtual machine, this will be a virtual machine, we can reset it, we can actually go to any checkpoint that we want, or we can rebuild it within minutes whenever it's needed. I'm going to show you how to do that. So there is a website called kali.org, which is the main website of Kali Linux. If you search for Kali Linux in Google, you will see a lot of results, like millions of results, and most probably you will see the kali.org in the first place. Because as I said before, this is the official website of Kali Linux. And you can find the images, the installation files over here, but this is not where we are going to download it from, okay? I'm going to explain why. If you come over here, you will see a lot of versions like Kali Linux 64-bit, Kali Linux 32-bit, and other versions as well as you can see the VMware and VirtualBox images, files of the Kali Linux as well. However, Kali Linux gets frequent updates. It gets updated like 4 times a year. And with these updates, sometimes it gets harder to adapt to the new versions, especially for newcomers. So I have made a special version of Kali Linux for this specific course. And as you can see, actually you can find the VirtualBox and VMware images over here. If you click one of these links, if you click one of these offensive security links, it will direct to you another page, which is the offensivesecurity.com, which is the main company that develops Kali Linux, in fact. And you can find the images, you can find the files over there as well. But I strongly suggest that you follow my instructions in order to use Kali Linux in your VirtualBox. So let me show you what I mean. If you can come over here, you can click on the VirtualBox images and you can find the 32-bit and 64-bit here as well. However, I have prepared a 64-bit and 32-bit images specifically for this course. It's not different from the Kali Linux, okay? You can actually update and upgrade the Kali Linux, and you can actually modify the Kali Linux anytime or anyhow you want. But for the first installation, I really suggest you follow along my instructions and download the image that I will provide you and install that. So I will share this link with you, okay? So this is for 64-bit. I'm going to share the 32-bit as well in the resources of this lecture. If you cannot find it, you can just take a look at the next lecture where I will explain the links. I will just put the links for 64-bit and 32-bit, and you can just download those. If you don't know whether your computer is 64-bit or 32-bit, you can always look at the properties of your computer icon in your desktop, okay? It will just be there for 64-bit or 32-bit. So find your suitable link. For example, if you're 64-bit, you're gonna have to come over here to this link, and you're gonna have to just hit on download over here, and it will start downloading. So it will take you to this web page actually, and you can say download anyway. Since this is a very big file, like almost 4 gigabytes, it cannot scan this for virus detection, but you can just download it and it will take a while, obviously, since it's a 4 GB file. And obviously I have downloaded this before in order not to make you wait, so I'm not gonna go with the downloading process. Just make sure you download this anyway and save it to your downloads folder or wherever you want. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to install this after you download it. So the file is in my documents or downloads, I believe. I'm going to take that file and install it so that it will appear like these virtual machines over here in this list, and then we're going to see how we can set it up and run it to use it. Okay, so make sure you wait until the download is finished and then come back. So I'm going to show you the file. So I'm going to take this to my desktop actually, so that you can see it in a better way. But you shouldn't take this to your desktop. You can just leave it in your documents or download folder, because after you install this, you cannot move it actually. It will cause some problems. So installation is very basic. All you have to do is just double click on this one and it will pop up like this. But sometimes it doesn't pop up. Okay, so I'm telling you in the Mac OS, because it really doesn't matter if we have Mac or Windows at this point. All you have to do is just go to your menu to File and say Import Appliance. Okay, and this is only for if you double click on this OVA file and if it doesn't work. So to manually install this, you can choose this file from this icon over here, and it will bring up the same screen that you have seen before, like this. So I'm going to double click on this one, and this is local file system. Okay, this is the default thing. You can leave this as it is, and when you say continue, you will see the same screen like before, like that. And again, double clicking or importing will lead to the same screen where we will not change anything right now, and we will just import it. Okay, because after we import this, we can change all the settings later on, and we're gonna do that before we start it. So I'm going to say import, and it will take like a couple of minutes to finish, and then we're going to do some further settings, further adjustments in our Kali Linux so that we can use it. For example, one of the things that we're going to do is to choose this RAM allocation or the network type. Like we have created a NAT network, remember, in the VirtualBox. So we're going to make Kali Linux take that NAT network as the default network so that we can connect to the internet using Kali Linux. And actually at this point, you may come across some problems. For example, virtualization problems or any other problems that you can think of. And I have prepared a document, a simple document that can show you how to solve these problems. So if you come across anything funny that will lead to not working of Kali Linux in this lecture, just make sure you pause the video and go to the next lecture where I will explain how to solve these problems. And again, as I said before, Kali Linux gets regular updates, and I update this file on Google Cloud, and I update the links usually right after the Kali Linux releases its updates, but you can actually update it from the VirtualBox itself. I will show you how in the beginning of the Kali Linux section. Okay, so don't worry about the updates, don't worry about the things that you're going to install. It will be up to date, it will be latest technology. So you will see the Kali Linux over here when you install it. Just click on that, but not double, just click on once, because before we run it, we're going to adjust the settings of this Kali Linux. So make sure you open this from the settings over here, and it will pop up the Kali Linux settings. This is not the settings of the VirtualBox. This is not the preferences of the VirtualBox. This is the settings of Kali Linux. As you can see, we see the type as Linux. So if you don't see the type as Linux, make sure you choose the Linux and go for Debian 64-bit. So if you're in 32-bit and if you have downloaded 32-bit link, then make sure you choose Debian for 32-bit. And if you're on 64-bit, but you cannot see the Debian 64-bit. You can only see the 32-bit options over here. Then there must be some issues regarding the virtualization. So I cannot show you how to solve this problem in this video, because in order to solve that problem you have to restart your computer and go into the BIOS settings in order to enable virtualization and come back and try again. So this is very easy to do, but it may be some kind of confusing for you. So I have put that in the lecture, in the following lecture, in a documentation, so that you can follow along from there and solve that virtualization problem. It rarely occurs, but if it happens to you, then you're gonna have to go to the next lecture. So over here in the tabs we have advanced section where we actually save the snapshots. So we're gonna see what a snapshot is. So over here we see the description of this file, description of this virtual machine, and I have included my name over here just to say that this is a version by me specifically created for this course. Okay, you don't have to change anything over here like disk encryption. We don't need any encryption at this point, so make sure you change the basic settings if it's needed, and just don't touch anything else, because we're good to go with the default types. So if you go to the system tab, you can see the motherboard sections, motherboard options over here, which is very important because that's where we actually decide the RAM allocation. So as you know, you have RAM in your computer. This is random access memory. This is kind of temporary memory where you save the data when you use applications like this. Okay, so let me go back. And over here we allocate some of the memory, some of the RAM to the Kali Linux, because it will be a machine eventually, whether it's a virtual or not. So we have to choose a RAM. So Kali Linux works fine with 1 GB of RAM like this, 1024 megabytes. So if you have more than 8 GB of RAM, you're more than welcome to allocate more RAM to your Kali Linux. But if you have 8 GB, 6 GB, or 4 GB, I really suggest you go for 1. And if it's kind of slow or something when you open it, if it stucks, if it lags at some points, then you're gonna have to increase this and try and find your optimum RAM allocation. It differs from system to system, it differs from computer to computer, so make sure you try it. And this is the same thing in processors as well. As you can see, I have 4 CPUs and I have allocated 1, and Kali Linux is happy with the 1 CPU, but if you have like a lot of things to spare over here, you can try giving 2 CPUs, but again it will work fine with 1 CPU. So make sure you say enable PAE NX over here, and when you do that, if you get anything over here like an error message saying that invalid sessions, like invalid virtualization detected or something, it again it means that you have to go to the next lecture where you will see how to enable the virtualization. And in the acceleration part, you don't have to do anything, you're good to go with the default settings. Okay, so over here we have display, storage, like we don't need to change anything over here. Like in the storage we define where we store our Kali Linux. In audio you don't have to do anything, but in network this is very important. Make sure you go here to the network. Okay, so if it's NAT, for example, go for NAT network and choose the NAT network that you have created from the VirtualBox settings. So this is very important. This is crucial for you to connect to the internet and make sure you're choosing the NAT network that you have created. And under advanced, we have this promiscuous mode where we actually specify if it's enabled or not. So you have to come over here and make sure change the setting as well. So you should say allow all. This will actually enable us to connect with the other options, other virtual machines inside of the NAT network. If you don't do that, it won't work fine. So make sure you choose the NAT network and enable the promiscuous mode over here. So that's all the settings actually that you're gonna have to do. Okay, when you do that, you can start your Kali Linux machine. So if you come over here and hit start, then it will just pop up over here and it will just start. So if you get any errors regarding to virtualization or any other thing, again, go to the next lecture. And if you have some kind of different funny errors, I will show you a technique right here in this lecture. So make sure you wait until you see it as well. For example, I got a bug from the previous version of Kali Linux. When I hit anywhere besides Kali Linux over here, it just shut down. Like I couldn't minimize it and open it back up like this. Okay, so that was a clear bug. And I have found a solution in order to solve this as well, and I will show you. So when you open the Kali Linux, you can close it anytime you want from here, or you can make it into full screen like this, okay? And this is same for the Windows as well. Since I'm in the Mac, I'm just displaying everything view in Mac, but it really doesn't matter. For username, you have to use root, and for password, you have to use toor. So TOOR, the reverse string of root. Okay, so make sure you give root here and TOR in the password and say login, and it will take you in the Kali Linux. So this is our operating system. This is Kali Linux itself. Okay, we see the desktop of the Kali Linux over here, and we're going to see how to use Kali Linux in details later on. But right now, just make sure that you open the Kali Linux and you see this dragon thing over in your desktop, like in the middle, and that's cool for you right now. So when you close this down, you will see some options. If you say power off the machine, it will just shut it down. If you say other things, it will just run it in the background, but I generally shut it down completely because I can start it anytime I want. So the other method that I was talking you about, if you have some kind of bug or if you experience any problem regarding the opening of Kali Linux, you can come over here to the start button where you will see this arrow, and if you click on the arrow, you can say headless start. So this is starting Kali Linux, just in a different way. The booting of the Kali Linux will be different over here. Sometimes it solves our problems, okay, sometimes it solves the bugs. So make sure if you come across with any problems, try that first and then go back to the next lecture if you cannot find the later solutions. So over here we got a small screen for some reason, but I believe it will just be in a good place when we close this down and when we open it up again. So you're gonna have to maybe restart it a couple of times to see the full screen, or else if you cannot make it happen, we can change the screen resolution of Kali Linux in the Kali Linux settings inside of the operating system settings. You don't know how to do that yet, and it's perfectly normal. We're going to see how to adjust the settings of Kali Linux in different ways in the Kali Linux section. Okay, this is only for installation, this is only for setup right now. So I'm going to power this off because we are ready to move on. This is very cool. I hope you managed to install it and run it on your own machine. So we're gonna stop here and continue within the next lecture.